now I want to tell you how to conduct your own mission interview. I've conducted hundreds and hundreds and sat through so many hours of video interviews. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to conduct an interview. I'm just going to share with you the way I typically do an interview. That way, if you ever want to do an interview for us or just on your own, you can kind of know the general format that I usually do. So usually I'll sit them down, I'll chit-chat with them for, 5 or 10 minutes to get to know them a little bit, like what they're studying, where they're from, and if they have any questions about the project. And then I'll usually say a prayer to ask for the Spirit to be with us and to have the Spirit help me to come up with good questions to ask and them to remember good things that they experience and ideas that they have. And it depends. So for stateside interviews, I ask sometimes different questions a little bit than foreign missions because there's not as much to talk about as far as culture and language and food, But let's just imagine, someone served in a foreign language in a different country than where they're from. I'll often ask them, so do you have anything you'd like to share relative to any pre-mission field topic or experience, about deciding to serve, if they're a sister, they often like to talk about how they decided to serve, or about preparing to serve, like what you did, what you wish you did to prepare. Any formative testimony building pre-mission experience that you had that you'd like to share. And then we'll talk about one or two things. We'll jump right in the mission field after that. Can you tell me any memories? Okay, let's get out. Tell me any memories when you flew out there, arriving to your mission, meeting your mission president, your trainer, going to your first area. Any memories of that first day or week? And I like to ask open-ended questions instead of yes or no questions. So that way they give you longer form responses than just saying, yes, that's what happened, And I'll ask them interesting questions about the church and the missionary work and about their mission. So if they know anything about church history or what the mission boundaries are, how many missionaries there are, what languages are spoken in your mission, what is the religious background of a lot of people there, what common challenges do they face or doubts, or what would you do differently? If you could serve there again, knowing what you know now, what would you focus on? And I'll ask several follow-up questions as we go along, just to pull more and more information. When I conduct interviews, they tend to be quite long because I like to pull out as much information as I can. And some people will go off for 5 minutes and just tell you tons of information. Others, you just have to pull out of them. They might just talk for 30 seconds or a minute, which is good, but you might be able to get a few more minutes worth of content and information if you ask follow-up questions. And then you can just splice the clips together afterwards when you're editing. Then if they served foreign mission, I'll ask them often about, can you paint a picture of what living is like? So what housing, transportation, weather, crime and safety, cool places to see, stuff like that. If they served in just a few areas, I'll often go area by area. Let's say they served in Japan and they served, first in Tokyo and then they served in okay, I'm going to offend someone. I'm just kidding. A different city and then a different city. We might spend a few minutes on each city. Let's just talk about Tokyo. Paint a picture of what the city Tokyo is like and things it's known for and cool facts about it. Maybe an experience or two you had there. And then we'll go on to the next city and the next city. So often do one clip about living there in the country as a whole or in specific cities, cool facts about the cities. Then often talk about the food, then about the culture, maybe about the language, things they admire about the people, cultural do's or don'ts, maybe history if they're a history buff, if they've taken classes, since their mission and kind of researched about the history more. Or it could be little snippet lessons in the foreign language, like how to say the missionary purpose in Japanese, or what the accent sounds like with a greenie missionary versus an experienced missionary. And then we do a rapid fire survey. If they're a sister missionary, we'll ask for sister missionary tips, like clothing tips, safety tips, emotional well-being tips. We'll do a rapid fire survey where we get a variety of experiences, like what was the most crazy experience you had? What was the spiritual experience you had? What was the most extreme weather you experienced? Any wildlife encounters? What was favorite food? What's the best, a powerful life lesson you learned on your mission? What was a hard experience you went through? Kind of short form answers. Unless they want to go on, then they can go on for longer. And I'll often clump those into one clip, unless there's like a really good clip in that or a really longer clip. I'll like separate it as its own clip when I'm editing afterwards. And then I like to wrap up with testimony advice. So one's just like, look at the camera. If you could share a 1 to 2 minute message for someone who just opened their mission call, they're going to your mission, what would you say? Could be like a testimony or advice or just a little pep talk of sorts. And then I asked them, okay, now if you could, we'll do one more clip, like look at the camera, and if you could share a message for your friends in Japan, in Japanese, what would you share? You could share testimony, love or appreciation for them, encouragement, just something positive that if they were to come across would help them feel of your love for them and of your testimony would be a support to them. And then sometimes if they're really good at the language, or if we have enough time, sometimes we'll do a clip or two in their mission language. Anyway, that's kind of how the interviews go. And obviously for stateside missions, there's not as much about the language and culture. And so I might focus more on their areas, going area by area and trying to pull out information and experiences from those areas. So, and I think it's important, to just listen and, you'll nod your head and just try to listen to them and learn from them. Even if they say something that maybe you don't agree with 100%, just be super respectful and realize that they have things to contribute and you're trying to learn from them. And just approaching it as like, you're doing this as a service, like you're trying to serve pre-missionaries, you're trying to serve God, you're just doing your best and they're doing their best and you just have a fun time. But it really helps if you're not nervous as an interviewer, then the person you're interviewing generally won't be. If you're nervous as an interviewer, then they might feel a little more nervous. And as you do more interviews, if you do them back to back, like you just get used to it. Even if you usually get nervous in situations like, I've had an experience where I go for a while without doing any interviews, and then I feel my heart start to pound a little bit when I start an interview back up. But like usually most of the time I've done it so many times that I don't get nervous at all. But if you get nervous, you just do it a lot and then you don't feel any nervousness at all. And I think another skill for how to do a good mission interview is to just try to be in tune to the Spirit, because I've had multiple experiences where I just feel inspired to ask about some random topic or question. And it just so happens that person has like the perfect message about that topic or question or an extremely powerful story. And it's really hard to know about those things, but the Spirit knows all things and He can guide you and He can guide the person you interview. So it's important to like invite the Spirit and try to be in tune to the Spirit, I think. So that's how to conduct a good mission interview. In my perspective, if you only had 15 minutes to do a mission interview, I'd probably do it like a rapid fire survey format, and then maybe a testimony at the end. The interviews that I've conducted have typically lasted 1 to 2 hours, sometimes less, like 45 minutes. Sometimes we've had a couple, a handful of interviews go longer than 2 hours. A couple that have gotten pretty close to 3 hours. I think we had one that might have hit 3 hours, just because there's so much to talk about. And sometimes people do just go on for 15 minutes talking, and it's marvelous. It really is. I really enjoy it. And I think it goes by fast for the people you interview, because they're just talking about themselves, and who doesn't like being asked questions about themselves and talking about their experiences and insights? It makes you feel good. So, and I think it's kind of like an outlet for return missionaries to feel understood and feel like, they're contributing. So